What if the battles you fight in silence are already shaping lives you'll never meet? What if the nights you've cried alone, the mornings you've forced yourself out of bed, the quiet decisions you've made to keep going? What if all of that was more powerful than you realize? Your courage is not small. It's not hidden, even if the world doesn't notice. Every choice you make to rise instead of surrender sends out ripples far beyond your sight. The truth is this: your courage is already inspiring more people than you can imagine. Think about it. People don't just draw strength from loud victories or dramatic moments. They draw it from the quiet persistence they see in others, those who keep going even when life is heavy. And whether you realize it or not, you have become that kind of example. You may think your battles are yours alone, but they are not. Each time you take another step forward, trembling as it may be, someone else sees the light in your persistence. Someone else feels hope rise again because of your silent strength. And this is where it begins, with the realization that courage is not just about you. It's about the unseen impact of your fight, the lives strengthened by your willingness to keep moving. But that's only the beginning, because courage has a way of shining brightest in the very moments you feel weakest. Courage doesn't always roar. More often it flickers like a quiet flame, hidden where no one sees. Yet that small flame has the power to light the darkest rooms. Think of the moments when you've wanted to give up, lying awake with silent tears, wondering if anyone notices, if it even matters that you keep trying. Those moments feel fragile, but in reality, that's when your courage is burning the brightest. Because courage isn't the absence of fear, it's moving forward with trembling legs, with a heart that still beats in uncertainty but refuses to quit. Every time you choose to stand up again, even when anxiety or doubt whispers that you shouldn't, you're carrying a torch into the dark. And here's the remarkable truth: you don't even see how many paths that torch is lighting. To you, it feels small, almost invisible. To others, it becomes a sign that survival is possible, that faith still matters, that hope is still alive. Your hidden courage is not wasted. It's already guiding people you don't even know. And the deeper secret is this: the smallest sparks of courage often set the largest fires of inspiration. But what does this look like in everyday life, when the world isn't watching and you're not on any stage? That's where the real meaning of courage is found. When people hear the word courage, they often imagine something dramatic, rushing into danger, standing before crowds, or performing heroic acts for the world to see. But the truth is, the greatest courage is lived out in the moments that look ordinary. Courage is waking up on a morning when you'd rather stay under the weight of the blanket and choosing to face the day anyway. Courage is walking into work, school, or home life while carrying silent battles no one else sees, yet still deciding to give your best. It's found in the moments when you choose patience instead of anger, when you forgive someone who never asked for it, when you decide not to compromise your integrity, even though no one would know if you did. These are the small, almost invisible acts that reveal strength. Everyday courage rarely looks like victory marches. It looks like the quiet yes you give to life when fear tells you to stop. It looks like stepping forward when you don't feel ready and saying no to temptations that promise relief but leave you empty. And here's the hidden beauty. Those choices, though small in your eyes, are seeds. Seeds planted in the soil of someone else's heart. Seeds that whisper, if they can endure, maybe I can too. You may never hear about it. You may never see the fruit, but it grows. History itself proves this. Some of the most world-changing moments didn't come from crowds or armies, but from one person making a quiet, risky choice. A single mother protecting her child. A servant refusing to betray trust. A believer choosing faith in the middle of fear. That's why your everyday decisions matter so much. You may not think of yourself as courageous, but every act of love, every step forward in faith, every refusal to quit, these are the unseen victories shaping your life and the lives around you. And here's the twist. The most powerful courage often goes unnoticed, which means the world might misunderstand what real courage looks like. For most people, courage is painted in big, dramatic colors. They imagine the soldier standing tall in battle, the activist shouting in the streets, or the leader making bold speeches that stir crowds. And while those acts can be courageous, they are not the whole picture. The truth is, courage is often quieter, hidden in the corners of life where no spotlight shines. Some of the greatest battles are not fought on public stages, but in private rooms, in hearts no one else sees. Think of the woman in history who risked everything by hiding others in her home, knowing discovery meant death. Her act wasn't performed for applause, but it shifted the future of entire nations. It was one quiet choice, invisible to the world, but monumental in impact. In the same way, your most courageous moments may never make headlines. They happen when you silence a lie with truth, when you choose hope instead of despair, when you stand for what is right, even if no one claps. That is courage, raw, authentic, and misunderstood by those who think only grand gestures matter. And perhaps this is the reason courage feels so difficult, because it doesn't always come with recognition. Sometimes it's just you, alone with your thoughts, choosing the harder path. But those hidden choices are the ones that truly shape destiny. Courage is not about being noticed, it's about being faithful. And when you live this way, you begin to discover something deeper. Courage is not built on your own strength alone. If courage were only about willpower, many would have already run dry. Because no matter how determined we try to be, human strength has limits. There comes a point where your own energy, your own grit, simply isn't enough. And yet somehow, you've kept going. That's because real courage doesn't begin with you. It begins with a source far greater. Courage is not the product of stubbornness. It is the evidence of a spirit alive within you. Scripture reminds us of this clearly. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of self-control. That spirit is not an abstract idea. It's the very breath that steadies you when fear rises. It's the quiet strength that helps you forgive when bitterness feels easier. It's the inner voice that says, "Stand up one more time," when everything in you wants to quit. Think about Joshua standing before a future he didn't feel ready to face. The command given to him was not be fearless, but be strong and courageous, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. His courage wasn't built on the absence of fear, it was built on the presence of God. And this is the secret. You don't need to generate courage on your own. You don't need to pretend you're unshakable. Your strength comes from knowing you are not walking alone. Every step forward is supported by one greater than your fear. When you anchor your courage in God's presence, your actions carry more weight than you realize. What looks like a small choice to you, resisting temptation, speaking truth, choosing kindness, becomes an echo of divine strength flowing through you. And here is where courage becomes authentic. It's not about perfection, but about trust. It's not about how steady your hands feel, but about who holds them when they shake. But that leads to something even more surprising. Courage is not meant to look flawless. In fact, the most inspiring courage is often messy, vulnerable, and imperfect. So many people believe they have to look perfect to be courageous. They think courage means showing no weakness, hiding every doubt, never letting fear show. But that's not courage, that's performance. Real courage is far more honest. It admits fear, but it moves forward anyway. It doesn't pretend to have every answer, yet it chooses to step out in faith. Courage is not a polished speech or a flawless image. It's the willingness to be real in the middle of struggle. Think about the times you've continued even while feeling broken. The times when you admitted, "I'm afraid, I don't know what's next," but you still kept going. That wasn't failure. That was courage at its truest. In fact, authenticity is what makes courage contagious. When others see you stand strong while trembling, it reminds them that they don't need to have it all together to keep moving. Your imperfections don't weaken your courage, they make it relatable. Some of the most powerful stories in history come from people who were not perfect but persistent. Leaders who doubted, prophets who questioned, disciples who stumbled, and yet their willingness to get back up became their testimony. Their courage was not in never falling, but in always rising again. And this is why your mistakes and setbacks don't disqualify you from inspiring others. Sometimes the most moving act of courage is simply getting up after falling, showing that failure is not the end, but just another step in the story. Courage, at its core, is not about looking fearless. It's about being real enough to say, I was afraid I was weak, but I did not stop. That kind of authenticity creates hope in people who are silently fighting battles of their own. And here's the beauty. You may not even know whose life your courage has touched. Because courage, whether authentic or unseen, never stays contained. It spreads, it multiplies, it creates ripples far beyond your view. Every act of courage, no matter how small, has a ripple effect. You may never hear about it, you may never see it, but the impact travels farther than you imagine. That quiet choice you made to be patient, to speak truth, to stand for what is right, those actions don't just disappear. They inspire others in ways you cannot measure. Imagine a single stone dropped into water. You see the first splash, but the ripples spread far beyond what your eyes can follow. That is how your courage works. A kind word, a small sacrifice, a decision to keep going even when everything seems against you. These are stones, and their ripples touch lives you will never meet. Think of the moments when you acted with integrity at work, when you resisted temptation, when you chose kindness over anger. To you, they might feel insignificant. To someone else, they might be the sign they needed to keep believing. Your courage quietly reassures others that standing strong is possible, that hope can survive, that goodness can prevail. History shows us this too. Some of the most profound changes were triggered by small, seemingly invisible acts. A single choice made in faith changed a family, a community, even nations. And your courage works the same way, often silently, invisibly, but powerfully. Even your struggles, the moments when you feel like giving up, become part of this ripple. Others see you persist. They see you rise when it would be easier to quit. And without even knowing it, they are encouraged, motivated, strengthened. The beauty of this ripple effect is that it doesn't need recognition. You don't need applause. You don't need anyone to tell you it matters. The mere act of choosing courage in all its small, quiet ways is enough to create waves that reach far beyond your imagination. And what's even more remarkable, the ripples of your courage can sometimes return to you in unexpected ways, showing up when you need hope most. Every effort, every step forward is never wasted. But courage doesn't end with ripples alone, because there is a final truth waiting to be realized. The full picture of your life's impact is far greater than you can see, and one day it will all become clear. Your courage is not small. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. Every quiet act, every unseen step, every choice to keep moving forward, even when it feels impossible, is part of a story far greater than you know. The people whose hearts you've lifted, the dreams you've rekindled, the hope you've sparked, they may never tell you. They may never even meet you. But your courage has already reached them. Your life has already touched theirs.